Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill, and we have as our co-host today, Amanda Wares.
Yes, hello.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
It's great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you as well.
Tell us what we got today.
All right, so today in Homeschool News, we are going to be going over some important conference deadlines and opportunities. Conferences coming up.
That's right.
And then Homeschool Conversations, we are going to be talking to Gretchen Roe live on a Zoom call. Gretchen's one of our speakers at the conference this year. And then we'll be doing Homeschool Helps with Amanda live as well. That's super fun. And I'm going to be talking to you about why you should homeschool.
All right.
All right.
And we bet there are people listening who haven't chosen to.
That's right.
So, and then they can also share with others if they are. That's
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so starting off with homeschool news, we have a few things coming up for the conference. One that's really important is you have 1 day left to book your room at the Embassy Hotel, which is on the same site as the conference, if you want to get the discount with the block of rooms that we've reserved for the conference. So tomorrow is the last day. Oh, wow. And so that's going to be coming right up. And you can go to nche.com/thrive and click on lodging in the left hand and see all the information on how to do that.
Okay. And it really is. It's so good. I used to resist the idea of getting a hotel room, but it's so good to have a room and be able to go back, carry all your books and put them in the room. It's
Absolutely.
Great. Another deadline that's coming up, pre-registration ends next week, May 18th. So if you want to pre-register and not have to register on site, May 18th is the deadline. After that, you are going to have to register on site at the conference and the prices go up. So if you want to save some money, register by May 18th. We have individual or married couple and family passes as well. Another opportunity that is happening at the conference, which is great, on the Friday of Thrive, is our college fair. This is a great opportunity for parents and students to be able to talk directly with a bunch of different colleges, ask your questions, get information. It's a really good opportunity, and we have a great list of colleges this year. So definitely you can find the list on the website for Thrive. Again, that is Friday of the conference, May 26th. An important note about the college fair, it's open to anybody. It's open to the public. So, of course, we want you to register for the conference and go to the whole thing. But if you just want to come to the college fair on Friday and look at those colleges, you can.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
that's good info.
Yeah.
Okay, we are really looking forward to talking to Gretchen today. Gretchen Roe has 21 years of home education experience with her 6 children, 5 of whom are college graduates. Although she considers herself a reluctant homeschooler, she now says it was the best journey of my life. With a degree in psychology and child development, she has spent the last 27 years in positions of homeschool advocacy, developing special bonds with families of children who have to work hard to learn. A former business owner, she has served on a variety of nonprofit boards. Gretchen began working for Demi Learning in 2014 as a placement specialist and now serves as the company's community relations coordinator. She loves the outdoors, all things furry. I want to challenge that. I want to think of something furry that she might not like. Anyway, chicken raising and beekeeping, and is a second-degree Taekwondo black belt. I would throw that in there if I had that too. That's excellent.
Wow.
Welcome to the show, Gretchen.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here with you all today. And I have to tell you, it's the things your children drag you into that make it really fun. My youngest son talked me into Taekwondo, and it's been a fantastic journey.
That's great. That's cool. So do you even like rodents, furry?
14 years I had pet rats.
Okay.
Wow.
And I would have them now, except for the fact that I travel so much during the summer. They get a little neglected. So I have set a goal that when I get off the road this summer, I'll have another pair.
Oh,
They're
wow.
fun.
Oh. So do you ever run into Steve Demi?
All the time. All the
Okay.
time. I'm his work wife.
Well, we've become great friends. I get to visit him once a year at some of his men's retreat and stuff, and he's a
Wonderful.
real
So you're out in St.
important
Louis.
person. No, I'm not, but we go there too to the. Yeah, that's right. That's where we
Right.
have the retreats. That's right.
Terrific.
Neat.
All right. Well, I'm looking at your workshops for the conference coming up, and the titles are Pack Your Homeschool Bags, Practical Advice for the Journey. Another one is Mountains to Molehills, Conquering Math Obstacles. And the third one, Have an Exit Strategy, How Life Unfolds After Homeschool. Wow, those topics are kind of all over the place. I
They
mean,
are.
you know, different things. Do you have any favorites or things that you really like to focus on?
Well, all of these topics are near and dear to my heart. I say that I'm a reluctant homeschooler because I became a homeschooler overnight in the middle of a year. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no intention of being in it for the long game, but I wouldn't have changed it for anything. And the truth is, over the years, I've had wonderful opportunities to work with a wide variety of homeschoolers. And so packing your bags is about what are the best pieces of advice that a variety of homeschool moms and dads have shared with me over the years to make your journey a better one. And I just think I think of myself as the Swiss Army knife of advice. So I just bring a bunch of things to the table, and hopefully it will be information that makes it easier for families to begin their journey.
Well, how about we get a couple of tidbits on that one? So, some of your favorite pieces of advice.
Well, my favorite piece of advice about home educating is not weaponizing the outcome when you're asking your child to do something. And by that, I mean asking a child to go clean their room. And it can be an overwhelming task. And so I come at it from the perspective of having 6 children who have attention deficit, being an attention deficit person myself. And how can you set a kid up to be successful? And so that's one of my favorite portions of the conversation is to talk about creating success in our children, not just expecting success.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, I have a wonderful picture that's a graphic of an inordinately messy room, and it makes parents laugh because everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
But when you send your child to the room and say, go clean it, sometimes that can be really overwhelming.
that's too
So I
much.
talk about taking that task and breaking it into smaller pieces and quantifying by time how you will help. The other thing it does is it helps a student who does not typically have executive function skill, which is really any child, regardless of age, but particularly teenagers who are bathed in the hormones of puberty, to be able to figure out how to focus on one thing at a time and create a series of successes.
Yeah, we had one of those kids where if we didn't break it down into something small, he just blew a fuse. Just could not do it, you know? That's so
Totally
good.
understand that. I've had those children, and then I have another child who has dyslexia and auditory processing disorder, and he's an adult who's brilliant, but I still have to break it down one step at a time, and he's 24. So,
All right, how about one more practical advice before we go to a different topic there?
well, I think sometimes we think of homeschooling as school at home, and it's not. So one of the things that I want to talk about in my presentation is changing your attitude and sort of changing your heart stance, if you will, about how homeschooling is different than what we customarily think of as an educational journey. Everything from time constraints to how to order your day to your expectations. And I think I'm pretty good at helping parents quantify realistic expectations.
Got it. That way we don't get frustrated, huh? When we're not getting what we're expecting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, expectations are premeditated resentments. So
Ooh, I like that.
Wow, okay.
that's not mine. I stole it from another speaker, but it stuck with me because I thought it was a really, really interesting comment. And I think thinking about that and being able to create expectations that are gentle and kind and anticipatory of the cup being half full is a great way to order ourselves with our children.
And so the solution isn't to not have expectations or standards. Is that correct?
Correct. But to quantify those, for instance, one of the things that I say is it's unrealistic to expect a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old to work on their own.
Okay.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Mountains to molehills, conquering math obstacles. So is math one of the areas you've worked in more than others?
It is. And, I laughingly say I think math is spelled with 4 letters for a reason. I am not, I don't come to the table as a mathematician loving math.
Okay.
But I work for a mathematics company. So
Right.
how do you make that happen? And what I have learned in the last 9 years at Demi Learning is when our kids struggle, there's a lot of emotionality, there's a lot of resistance, there's hesitancy, and often that's generational. So I want to talk about the roots of math anxiety and how we can overcome that and how we can make math a better experience for any learner at any age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So give us a couple of those tips, how at least a couple of those obstacles that are more common and how we overcome those.
Well, the most common obstacle is we come to math with a hope and a prayer that children will do things like commit their math facts to memory and be able to hang in there as math becomes more complex. And math, by its very nature, is sequential and cumulative. And if you only create about 50% of the foundation, the further you go forward, the more of a struggle it is for a student to remain engaged. So the premise of my presentation is to talk about where the struggle begins, and for each child, that's in a different place, why it might be there. And my background is in neuropsychology and child development. It didn't help me with my own kids, but nevertheless, it informs a lot of what I'm talking about with regard to kids and how the brain functions under stress, what happens when we're stressed in trying to do a math problem, and how we can alleviate that stress by recognizing where the gaps are in our students' education and then filling in those gaps.
So you're saying the stress often comes because they're encountering trouble areas or gaps.
Correct.
And their understanding. Mm-hmm. And so
Correct.
Identifying those is an important part?
Well, we often think that, oh, gee, I have a child who is not mathematically literate. That's not really a true thing. It's not that we are artistic and therefore not mathematic. It is somewhere along the way, the wheels came off our mathematical wagon. And so what happens there? And for every child, it's different. So the parent needs to become a little bit of a detective to figure out where those struggles are and how we can right the ship, if you will. And I have some really practical advice and tips. And this presentation is much more about conversation with families who attend, talking about where their children's individual struggles are, and then I'll give them practical advice.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
Anything?
I'm excited about this last workshop because I have one child left at home. And so I am very much looking at what happens after he graduates and I have homeschooled for 23 years and what do I do when I grow up? So
let's have a personal counseling session right here.
Yeah,
like, tell
exactly.
Amanda
what do I do,
she's
Gretchen?
going to do.
What do I do?
Well, I will tell you, this is the outgrowth of conversation after conversation I have had with homeschool moms who find themselves at the end of the journey and they're bereft. They don't know how they got there. Their identity for any number of years, like you, Amanda, 23 years, me, 21 years, was tied up in educating our children. Now what are we supposed to do? So this is a very practical talk about setting priorities, reorienting yourself, creating space for the grief that comes when homeschooling ends, and then moving beyond that grief to a presence of joy and what comes next. So again, seeing that cup as half full instead of half empty.
I love that. That's awesome.
Well, let's talk about it a little more. And it's interesting. I like how you do have pack your bags, which means you're getting started. And then now we're doing the exit strategy, which is great. Give us some more. Give Amanda some more. No, I'm just kidding. I'm also I'm exiting. I have 3 graduated, but I still have 6 at home. So I still have time
For a while.
before I have any real exiting going on. But let's give some more specifics on how does a parent prepare for that? What can they expect to, like you said, feel, to go through? How can they prepare or go through that time in a healthy way?
Well, I think there's a variety of ways we come to the end of the journey. Sometimes we come to the end of the journey because our children tell us they don't want to be homeschooled anymore. And that's a different scenario than coming to the end of graduating the last one. I've been through both of those experiences. My last one graduates in about 40 days. So,
wow.
It's a joyful journey, but there are, in every ending is a beginning. And I think we often, if we are as intentional about what comes next as we are in choosing curriculum and making the decisions for the next year and deciding what our priorities are, then we're not going to be caught flat-footed and surprised. Grief is a part of the process, but I want to talk about that in a positive context to be able to help moms and dads move beyond that. 10 years ago, I would have said this was a talk only for moms. But you know what, Matthew, there's more dads who are the principal home educator in their family than ever before.
Right, that's right.
That's true.
And we need to talk to both parents about how that journey comes to its conclusion and how it can be a joyful end of a new beginning.
So I have a question from the position of, okay, so I'm executive director for North Carolinians for Home Education, and one of the most effective and powerful people that we have who are serving homeschool families are retired homeschool parents. So,
Correct.
So when is it fair for me to say, hey guys, you're wondering what to do? Well, help us out. Like, we have these wonderful volunteer opportunities, and there's so many homeschool parents coming up, and they don't have the answers, and they don't know, and you have so much to offer. I don't want to pounce on them, but when can I?
Well, I think that becomes with knowing the family with whom you're having the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not an appropriate path for every family.
Right.
Some families, they find themselves at the end of the journey, and then economically they are required to go back to work or pick up the reins of a career perhaps they set aside. More and more families are in the journey as they educate their children and work at the same time. So what does that look like as that changes throughout your life? And if that's something you feel called to do, I think that mentorship is unbelievably valuable. I love being in that mentorship role. We're not all called to do that,
right?
And so it comes with having a conversation with ourselves of what am I called to do? What does fill my cup? And so we'll do a little bit of practical application of thinking about what that looks like in this particular session.
Great.
That's great.
All right. Any last thoughts for our listeners on the conference or on just your advice?
This conference in Winston-Salem, I look forward to more than any other conference I do. And I do between 12 and 15 every year. I love this conference because it's my state.
Right.
And I love being in Winston-Salem. I exhaust myself because I get up very early and I go walk in Old Salem rain or shine. I'll be walking in Old Salem early in the morning. If you want to join me, come along.
Okay.
But I think my best advice is don't miss it, and come with an open heart, an open mind, and an empty notebook, because you'll fill them all.
That's great. I love that.
That's awesome.
So how can people find you and your ministry, or hear more from you online or
You
something?
go to demilearning.com, and let me encourage you to go to demilearning.com/blog. I host a weekly webinar event for families who are in the journey. We talk about all sorts of things. Tuesday's webinar was probably one of my favorites I've done in the last year. We were talking about teaching our children emotional intelligence and empathy. And oh my goodness, it was a fantastic conversation. So if you want to find it, go to the blog on Fridays, and you can find any recording. All of our events are free. You can register for those. And we do one almost every single week for families. You don't have to be a user of Demi Learning materials, although I would love for you to be.
All right.
We do that to support families in their journey wherever they are.
Wonderful.
And then I
go
have to add, Matthew, because this is so new, I keep forgetting it. We just launched the webinars as a podcast. So you can go to your favorite podcast medium and find the Demi Learning Show, and you can find that content so you can listen and learn as you walk and do.
Right.
Great.
Well, thanks for joining us, Gretchen. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Great. Can't wait, y'all.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. That was great.
All right. Live. Homeschool Helps with you.
All
Amanda.
right. So today I'm talking to you about why should you homeschool? There are so many reasons, but let me just share a few of the reasons that I homeschool and have continued to do so for 18 years so far. First of all, I want to encourage you that the reason that you start homeschooling may not be the reason that you keep homeschooling.
Okay. Interesting.
I started homeschooling specifically to help my daughter just in a few different areas. And then we were going to send her back to brick and mortar school. I kept homeschooling because it was working for her and for our family. And my then kindergartner, her little brother, would not have made it in a classroom environment. And then later on, a few years, our family fell in love with the lifestyle of learning and the freedom and flexibility of the schedule. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want a
love some
vacation
flexibility
on the off season and avoid the crowds, avoid the inflated costs? Yeah. And now, 18 years later, I simply cannot imagine it another way. It is definitely just the best option for us, for our family. So what about some other reasons that people choose to homeschool? Especially during COVID and right after, some people started because maybe they didn't want their children doing hours and hours of virtual learning. Or suddenly they were exposed by that screen. They were exposed to more of what was being taught and how it was being taught. And that wasn't what they wanted for their children. Or when school started back, maybe they didn't want their kids in masks all day. I know families that started homeschooling because of that. Or they had experienced having their children home with them and they enjoyed it so much they didn't want to quit.
Sure, I heard that a lot.
Yeah. Another reason, this is a sad reason, but it's reality. Some families in this day and age start homeschooling because of safety concerns. Sometimes families want to be able to teach their children content that lines up with their values and beliefs. There are so many reasons. I could go on and on and on. Sometimes the freedom to schedule school around life is the reason.
Yeah.
Maybe dad has an unusual schedule, and if the kids were in school all day, the families would never be able to see each other. The kids would never see dad. I've known many families about that homeschool for that reason. Yeah. I also know many families that homeschool their children with special needs. Whether it's because their kid's IEP wasn't being followed or their potential wasn't being reached. Seriously, there are so many reasons. I could just go on and on.
So the military went in, like you said, about family flexibility in the sense that it could be whole seasons of life where things change and you have to be able to get moving,
Absolutely. And sometimes that continuity, being able to
Right.
just continue the education on
Right.
without being disrupted by moves or whatever with the military. Absolutely. And always the freedom to pass on your values, your beliefs, or
Right.
the freedom to make the schedule just like you want it. But why should you homeschool? Why should you make the leap and start? I'm going to leave that one up to you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amanda. And you're going to find out reasons maybe that you've been thinking about homeschooling or people that you know that are, and you can pass this on. We hope that today has been super encouraging to you. We love to be with you. We love to encourage you in these ways.
Yes.
If it's been encouraging to you, I hope you'll share it with others. You can tell others about the radio show. You can tell them about the podcast and on YouTube and subscribe. We'd love for you to do it. Also, let us know if you have any questions. You can email us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. And until next week, continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.
Bye-bye.